So as it is, I play farm sim, I play truck sims, both 17 and 19 on farm sim, ETS and ATS on... I do play farm sim 19. Saturday mornings I play 17. In part because I find I wasn't particularly happy with Ravenport and Felsbrunn. My main weekly stream is Estancia Lapacho, although that had good outings on YouTube and Twitch last year on Farm Sim 17. This farm is very mature and has a lot of equipment and quality of life mods that currently aren't available on FS19. Now, in the past week, we have had 4 new maps out on the mod hub, and I took a look at the Alpine Panorama map yesterday, extended look. I will be taking an extended look at Marwell Manor tomorrow, or maybe tonight. I'm undecided at this point. I don't. This is a regular stream, weekly Farm Sim 17. In part because I want to complete all of the achievements for Farm Sim 17, and I haven't completed them all yet. But I feel it provides a little bit of variety when compared with the majority of streamers and YouTubers right now, as far as Farm Sim 19 is concerned. Now, with the advent of Farm Sim, the new maps on Farm Sim 19, I am strongly considering closing this series down and going full bore over to Farm Sim 19. However, I still want to complete the last achievement I have to unlock on this game before I call it fully completed, shall we say. That's something we could probably check now. We did reach 75 cows, and I didn't see a little message come up to say you have completed the cow breeding achievement. Oh, come on, seriously. This problem is something that, as I said earlier, is fixed in Farm Sim 19. You can basically do that from any angle, and the bale will pop into the wrapper. Another farm I'm looking forward to on Farm Sim 19 will be Old Stream Farm, which hopefully, considering Marwell Manor surprised us all yesterday, is also not far off release. And that'll make a bit of conundrum for me, because I did like playing Old Stream Farm in 17. I feel the Black Sheep modding do make some very nice, natural feeling maps. Now, another thing I say is, from my mind, a smaller map is a little bit more entertainment friendly. It doesn't take you long to finish a job on a field and move on to the next one. Now with this particular game, I have somewhere in the region of half a dozen tractors, a big harvester. So at any given point I can take a job on and let workers do the other jobs that need to be done around the farm. And if you look, I've got £377,000 on this map, on this game, so I can afford to hire workers for anything. When you start up a new map, you're kind of struggling until you start making money. Oh, that is a pain in the butt. And now it's not. And pull forwards again. And go, jump, 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 jump. There we go. So yeah, as time goes on, I will be playing far more Farm Sim 19. It is a better game. Who did Snetterton? I can't remember. I did take a look at it. It's like this farm. I really have enjoyed playing this farm, and it's possibly the only big farm I've played that I really enjoyed playing. I don't think it's all down to me playing it with seasons. The problem with this farm is the map maker. I haven't seen anything made by him since this map was released. Pretty much January, February 2017. I have no idea how to get in touch with him. I'm also not familiar with how to mod things. But I would love to, maybe later on I'll look into trying to make a port of this. Now obviously I can't release it to the general public without at least trying to get permission of the original maker, unless I completely start from scratch and rework it entirely. Hold on. One of the reasons why Big Bud wasn't a particularly good DLC for me, because I'm really not into the big stuff. I mean, okay, at a country fair the big stuff's great, as far as doing your own farmings go, I tend to find sitting on a field for 3 straight hours just harvesting it and transporting the grain to the silo gets pretty boring quite fast. Being able to harvest a field in half an hour and then move on to do something else, a little bit more interesting. Oops. We did miss an awful lot of these. I'm not sure if I got the offset a bit wrong or whether I really was driving too fast a lot of the time. Let's move back. I think the other thing with the map is you need to be inspired as to what you're going to do on it. And this one was I played Old Streams just before Seasons came out, so I've never played Old Stream with Seasons, and I decided before Farm Sim 17 is done, I'm going to play at least a partial playthrough with seasons. This map is nowhere near seasons ready. When it snows, it's a pain in the butt. But heck, Scotland. Snow is a pain in the butt. But as I said, I enjoyed it so much. I have over 500 hours just on this farm. This is the fifth season playing 6-day seasons. We've had so many sheep through the farm, I'm actually starting to sell them. So I'm producing tons of wool. So getting up to about 150 sheep and then selling a truckload. Kind of working quite well, I think. I don't usually use this tractor for field work. This is getting a little bit awkward with the forks in the front. I've got a safety weight which works like a sort of a front bumper, which I usually come out to the field with because it lets me push the bale aside, get it lined up for the wrapper. I can't remember where I left that parked. And this was the most convenient tractor for the job today. I think the safety weights are actually over by that farm over there, where the grain silos are. I usually use the Massey Ferguson for this. It's only 5,700, 5,600. Be careful not to spike the bale as I drive past it. As far as I can tell, Seasons is in progress for Farm Sim 19, but it could be up to a year before we see it in a productive state. Pretty much like it was for Farm Sim 17. Since some aspects of Farm Sim 17 season are now actually part of the main game, for example, maintaining equipment, obviously Seasons here I had to you have the daily vehicle maintenance fee, but anything with an engine needs to have a service either every 30 hours or 1 year. So because I'm paying a 6-day season, every 24 days an unused vehicle needs to be serviced, or every 30 hours depending which one comes first. But that's now part of the game, so it's not something that the guys doing Seasons need to incorporate into Seasons. I think they've considered sort of crop moisture. You have to water the plants, but decided that would involve too much change. The base game doesn't support that kind of thing, so they're not looking at stuff like that. But there will be new aspects of the game within Seasons that will make things interesting. I kind of like the structured approach of Seasons. You start off on a map, every field is empty, it's the first day of spring, and you need to get out there and basically plough the fields you feel like ploughing. I think all of the fields start in an unploughed state. Now that's probably going to be an unlimed state for Farm Sim 19. And liming costs money, ploughing doesn't. Ploughing, you have to buy the plough. You have to pay for running the tractor, but you don't have to pay per yard for a consumable. I have no idea how many more I have. There's one there. So it kind of goes against my original argument of, you know, being able to do different jobs on around the farm. But the difference is, while I might be doing different jobs, or I might be doing the same job over and over again, I'm doing it on different fields. And this starting farm, actually starts with 10 fields. Although one of them is a grass pasture, not a defined field. Another aspect I kind of like is that animals die if you don't feed them, which in the base game they just don't produce anything if you don't feed them. I remember one of Daggerwin's videos series, he did a little bit of a collab with a guy called Chainsaw. They bought some pigs and they didn't feed them, and overnight on the first day the pigs, you know, about 10% of the pigs died. Expensive mistake, but yeah, animals need food. Oh. Okay, that's not going to jump in. So Farm Sim 19, that would jump in. There we go. Gotcha. Brute force and ignorance. So yeah, on this map, animals need fed tomorrow. Oh yeah, sunflowers. Don't have sunflowers. We're in Scotland. So fields you start off with, I believe, are 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 39. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This one I converted to grass on the very first. Yeah, when I was ploughing all the fields, I planted this one as grass because I wanted to supplement this. Everything else has remained arable, although I ploughed all 4 of these into one big field. It's about 12 hectares of ground to cover there. We can unload that now. Fold. Yep. But then for the first year, especially in Farm Sim 17, you got £10,000, and you have to run around and keep all your equipment running. So, you know, buying fertilizer, that's going to cost you money. You've only got £10,000. I took a rather radical approach. I sold the harvester. Starting equipment also came with a beet harvester. I sold that. I pretty much sold 90% of the tractors on the farm. I think the Massey I have at the main farm is the only tractor that came with the farm. Everything else has been purchased since. This tractor here was my first big purchase. I purchased this because to run something like the beet harvester, you need sort of 250, 300 horsepower. I'm running a realistic fuel mod, so the hill on this field, I need the sort of 300 horsepower that this tractor has to get it up the hill and still operate equipment and do it at the maximum speed the equipment can run at. Yeah. See, I don't know that. I'm guessing he fast winded through so that he started in the middle of winter, because typically when you, if even if you've got a save game and you start playing with seasons, it starts you on the first of spring, and I think it pretty much destroys anything that you had planted. So. But it allows you to plan stuff, and the problem I discovered, as far as this game is concerned, no, I don't want to do that. Back, Alt F is yeah. Yesterday was day 5, late summer, and it was sunny all day, and I had a chance to harvest all the crops. And I was figuring, well, I'll harvest most of them that are ready on day 5, and I'll do the rest on day 6, which is today. But after the stream 2 weeks ago, I discovered that, well, today it's going to rain, and for 5 days in fall it's going to rain. So the next chance I'm going to have to harvest anything is the last day of fall. Now that's not super critical, because I've harvested all of the grains, the wheat, the barley, and the canola that I had in the ground is now out and in the silos. The only thing I've got left in my fields is corn, which I'm going to silage, and soybeans. And they're both going to be ready around about day 5, day 6 of fall. And I've got day 6 that I can harvest on. Last year, day 1 and 4 of fall weren't rain. Day 2, 3, 5 and 6 were. And that wipes out my chances to harvest on day 5 and 6, which that's a critical time, because the late crops, that's when they're ready. So this has ended up being quite a challenge. I've actually managed today. It rained first thing in the morning, so I wasn't able to do much in the way of mowing this field, and I need to mow this field today so that it's going to be fully grown by the last day of fall. The other field I've got, field 1, is also planted grass. I need to harvest this field before I call it a night, purely because I want it available fully grown on the last day of fall to maximize my income. And so, yeah, but there's very little I can do for the next 5 days unless there's a decent enough gap between rainstorms and the ground has a chance to dry out before the next one. Yeah, the next storm starts. So we got lucky today in that I was able to. This ground dried out just after. Well, it's actually mid-afternoon before I got to it, and we've managed to bale up the entirety of this field. So now the bales are safe. Actually, while I'm talking, I could probably start pulling them off to the side. Love this truck. And yes, it does. Well, I think there's a couple of pointers as far as class goes. We have some farming convention that Farm Sim goes to is being held at the class manufacturing facility. So there is probably something going on there. Now, I heard dismissed that there was basically a class sound file during testing, but Giants are claiming that they were using the horn sound of the class Zerion 4000, which is that bigger tractor on the front of the baler, as a placeholder for some other piece of farming equipment that they didn't have a recording of the horn sound. And while they deleted the sound file, they left the configuration part in one of the in one of the configuration files. So that's why if you check one of the configuration files, there's an entry for a class Zerian horn. And I can I can kind of understand that, because if I don't have something available for some program I'm writing, I'll do something temporary and then make sure it's deleted later. I think one of the classic ones I heard of was my first manager said one of his former colleagues was writing some software and they were designing a screen for data entry. And usually you have to get error messages agreed to so that what you say in a message conveys something meaningful to the user. And he hadn't had a sit down with the department that was sponsoring the programming work to decide the verbiage of an error message. And he ended up he had the validation in place, if something is not found on a master file, then put out a message. But the message he put in as a placeholder was, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Head, please remove your son Richard from the keyboard." And the company CEO saw that. He was quite what's the word for it? He sort of grinned and he said, I take it that's going to be removed when this goes live. So, oh, yes. But, you put placeholders in where you don't have what you need right now. So, as I was saying, having a class Zerian sound file for testing, not as big a surprise as it might sound. However, you've got the class, or the convention at the class manufacturing works, which would seem to indicate that something's happening with class. Also, there's rumours of John Deere DLC, and if using FarmSim 17 as a springboard, first DLC we got was the Kun DLC, which was a lot of very, very useful small equipment, which there's at least two in that mowing train, the square wrapper and the big baler. And I made a lot of use of that equipment when it first came out because I like small farms. So from my mind, that was the best FarmSim 17 DLC. Next one they brought out was Big Bud. Good stuff, but big stuff doesn't work for most of the farms I play on. I still bought it, and I've hardly used any of it. I don't think I've ever had a Big Bud on any of the farms I play because it just doesn't work for the style of farm I play. You wouldn't find a Big Bud on this farm because the gates are too small, and every field has a gate, sometimes single, sometimes double. The third DLC was the Estancia Lapacho map, which gave you a lot of motorized and support equipment. So you got the Stara tractors, you got the sort of open top Massey Ferguson, you got the Bison harvester, and then you got a lot of Stara planters, cultivators and the like. So if we go with that as a kind of basis, then it's entirely possible that our first DLC may be a John Deere equipment DLC. So John Deere balers, John Deere cultivators, John Deere ploughs, whatever else John Deere produces, because we've got a good selection of John Deere tractors already in the game. The second DLC that they produce could be akin to the Big Bud, where we get class tractors and supporting equipment as well. So class balers, class auger wagons, that type of thing. That's a possibility. Or they could do whatever they call Platinum this year, Titanium Edition or whatever, where they produce a new map for the game mid-year. And maybe they would look at possibly a European map with class equipment. So I think we've got two options for introducing class into the game. Now, whether I'm on the mark or not, I don't know. I'm not anywhere close to Giants' development team to know anything. But there's the potential there, and that's my thoughts on the matter for now. Obviously, there's also the deal of maybe how far they are developing any of this stuff. You look at SCS software and the Truck Sim games. I mean, we'd known that Volvo was coming for a good year before we actually got the Volvo truck. Similar with the new MAN, is it Euro 6 truck? I mean, that was a better kept secret than the Volvo. But according to their development blog, that was in development for a couple of years. It's not like you can take, say farming equipment and completely develop it in, a couple of weeks. It's going to take time to get it right. You look at all of the all of the mods that Giants have released as Giants mods on the Mod Hub, and you're looking at equipment that was in Farm Sim 17. Not sure if entirely, but the vast majority of it. I must admit, I haven't done the comparisons. And from that matter, I would love to see the larger of the two Hurlemans in Farm Sim 19. I never played a Hurleman tractor in Farm Sim 17 until the last week before Farm Sim 19 came out, and I did a little sample how to start a map with seasons on it. And right out of the blue, I looked at the Hurleman and thought, it matches my requirements for a single entry-level tractor. Because when seasons comes along, you kind of look for, I want the least possible, the least amount of equipment I can get away with. So I'm looking for, say, something like the 1455 there. It's got a 3-point attached front and back. You've got front loader, arms, and you can run a full selection of regular and narrow tyres. So one tractor will do all the jobs on the farm, and sufficient horsepower to use reasonable sized equipment for your farm. Obviously things like the Valterrain fits in that, but also sorry, I'm talking and trying to remember what I'm doing at the same time, but also the other stuff I said there. So I decided, well, the Hurleman kind of fits that, and I played with it for about 2 hours on Old Stream Farm with seasons active. So we didn't get past the first day, but I used it to mow some fields, plant some fields, plough some fields, and it was a really nice tractor. And it's a Giants equipment, so it's kind of, it meets their eligibility for stuff to release on the mod hub. But as I was saying, you know, all of the equipment they've done on the mod hub so far, that is Giants labelled, is stuff that already existed in Farm Sim 17. So they don't have to take time out to create the models. All they have to do is refine the models they already have to Farm Sim 19 specifications. But yeah, you know, Big Bud didn't come out till what, summer of the first year, or late summer of the first year. And Estancia Lapacho with all the Stara equipment didn't come out till the sort of 1 year anniversary of Farm Sim 17. So yeah, I mean, Giants have asset creators, obviously, as well as programmers. The programmers go around fixing bugs, and the asset creators have to be, have to do something in the meantime. They're not fixing bugs because they don't know how to, necessarily. And that's like my job. I am a business mainframe programmer. If your website doesn't work, I'm not going to fix it because I don't know anything about how the website is set up. I'm not a network specialist, so if your network data isn't flowing properly, that's somebody else has to do it. So, I need to be kept gainfully employed. So I can be doing projects that other people don't know how to do, while they do projects that I don't know how to do. So in a computer game, you've got the visual assets, but the guys, effectively the guys who are making the equipment are effectively technical artists. They're not computer programmers. They may know how to do scripting, they may get somebody else to do the scripting. And so your graphic design people are all designing the models. A scripter is going to need to write the scripts to make the model work, and the programmers can be fixing bugs, and it doesn't, creating new mods does not take away from the team that's fixing the bugs. And that's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration. Giants could produce mods, dozens and dozens of mods, and it will not make the bugs, it will not slow down the fixing of the bugs, because the people who are making the mods don't know or don't have the skill set to fix the bugs. Now I'm kind of thinking about that. There are YouTube videos produced by people who do mods, and it might be interesting to actually watch some of those and see how it's done. As I said, I have seriously enjoyed my time on this map. It's a very enjoyable map. It has some shortcomings. The biggest one I usually mention is the fact that there's only one silage bunker down at the cow farm, and to be able to operate the farm efficiently, you either need to be able to store the silage in a barn of some type, or you need two silage bunkers, so that when one is being used as feed, you can use the other one to load with chaff in preparation for when the first one runs empty. But looking at a lot of the new Farm Sim 19 maps that are coming out, especially the ones that are still in beta, haven't been released, like the Rolling Hills map, there are a lot of building assets there which are fixed. So it doesn't matter. And the Michigan farm, for example, or the Michigan map, there is nothing. You don't get an empty yard. You just get the buildings all the time, and the buildings are fixed assets on the map. And my thought is, if the assets were like here, buildings, placeable sheds. So you look through my list of placeables, and I think at the end, I don't have actually that many mods running, but you've got all of these vehicle shelters and what have you. Well, how's about, let's turn that engine off now, we're done with that. Let's go here. So here we have that shed there, that shed there. That's another style of shed. This one here. That one there. That one's used down on the sheep farm. This one here kind of looks like one on the other side. So, what would happen if you just turned each of these buildings into its own purchasable asset, placeable asset, before you started working on the map? Then, if you want, you could start the game with all of the sheds in place, or you could start in farm manager mode where none of the sheds are in place. This would be an empty yard, for example, but I've got all of these assets that I can purchase and place and rebuild this farm as it is. But I could say, well, I don't like that shed, I'll delete that one. I don't need that garage there, I'll delete that, it's in the way. That one there's okay, but the one on the end there that I've got the straw bales and the what do you call them? The beat boxes. This one here, this one's awkward because it's got an entrance here and then getting round and parking stuff here. That's quite difficult to do. And so maybe, well, I'll delete that one and put one of the other building assets here that has more openings at the front. Just a thought. But it would allow me in Farm Sim 17 to delete something and replace it with something of the same style. With the Marwell Manor map, if you start in New Farmer mode, you get the farm. And you can sell the entire farm, but the entire farm is 3 assets. But you can't buy them from the store to put them back. And that's kind of a shortcoming of the design, at least with the way they did Ravenport. If you start as New Farmer, you have all the purchasable decorations on the farm. Now you can sell them. And for my Ravenport play, which I'm playing private, it's not a public playthrough. I'll take one of the sheds, I'll sell it, and I'll replace it with a maintenance hut. If I took one of the barns out and replaced it with a did I replace it with? I replaced it with chickens, I think. A chicken enclosure. I took another barn out and replaced it with a usable machinery shed. And so, Farm Sim 19 has the potential for each of these to be a placeable asset. But the people who are creating the maps right now aren't creating them as placeable assets. They're fixed position buildings. You just don't own this farmyard. So what you have to do when you start is you buy the farmyard, and now I can do stuff. I can place a machinery shop or a sprayer on this farm, on this pad. But these buildings I can't do anything with because they're fixed to the map. But if I were to find the time and ever consider it and say, I'd like to bring Lawfolds over to Farm Sim 19, one of the first things I'd look at doing is reproducing all of these buildings as placeable assets and releasing them first, and then assemble the farm. But then, because these would be placeable assets, you can sell them, or you can start in farm manager mode and buy a plot of land, and you can buy the buildings so that they look, you've got a set of buildings that look the same. Kind of my thoughts on the matter. So yes, good afternoon. Yeah, it's afternoon just. Good afternoon, Picatrix. Yes, I'd already said that. Farm Sim Seasons 19 is in progress. Like I said, we're probably a fair number of months, possibly up to 6 months off seeing that introduced. On other news, the guy that did this tractor and the big Azerion behind it, he has been working on the Farm Sim 19 versions of them. And the last note I saw on his Facebook page was, this one is done and ready to go. No, I don't want to press that button. I want to turn the forecast off. There we go. So we should potentially be seeing a class Axion 900 series coming to the Mod Hub sometime soon. And he also does the Axion 800, which is the slightly smaller, lower horsepower version of this. And he is working on the Zerion. He has no plans for the Arion. I don't think he does foragers or anything like that. Yes, and part of the reason for that is the modders don't have the scripting Bible. Glance is out. I hadn't seen that. I know there is a, let's call it a new version of GPS. What is it? It's steering helper mod or something like that, because he can't call it GPS, because the guy who does GPS for 17 now works for Cattle and Crops. The new version of GPS is now an installable on the tractor. So let's go here. Let's pick the Hurleyman. Where is it? When you go here, one of the selectables is GPS yes no, and you have to install GPS for 1,500 or £15,000 in my case, because that's my unit of currency, but 15,000 money to install GPS on a tractor. And at that point, the GPS is as usable as, or eventually will be as usable as Farm Sim 17 GPS. However, in Farm Sim 17, it's just a global thing, so long as I'm in a tractor, I can do that. Hey presto, GPS is active on this tractor, and it didn't cost me a penny. Now this tractor has that little dome on top of the cab, which is the GPS dome, and that makes sense. However, I can get out of that tractor, go run over here to this old 1990s tractor, which does not have a GPS dome. And oh look, I can use GPS on this tractor, which is a little bit unrealistic. I don't know if it's got the limits on what tractors you can install GPS. It would be nice, and it's probably a lot of work, to have a little GPS dome appear on any tractor that you have the GPS mod active on. And it's an interesting point, yes. GPS is beta on Farm Sim 17, and yes, you prefer GPS on Farm Sim. Sorry, is beta on Farm Sim 19. Did I say 19 or 17? And yes, I prefer GPS on Farm Sim 17, but that's because I'm familiar with it. And if I bothered to install GPS for Farm Sim 19, or the steering mod, the steering helper mod, whatever it is, and used it for 3 months, I might say, yeah, I like this. And I don't see the need for the Farm Sim 17 version of GPS to port over to 19, because I've got something that is as usable. So, it's kind of, it's what you're used to, but it's not necessarily any better or any worse. It's different. The same with Seasons. Seasons is going to be different for Farm Sim 19, because part of the elements of Seasons has been incorporated into the main game of Farm Sim 19. And the guys who are programming Seasons are coming up with new ideas to incorporate it in Farm Sim 19. But as you said, GPS for 19 is in beta. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a finished product as far as the programmer is concerned. Now, remember, I'm coming from the aspect of I haven't tried it yet. But yes, on the matter of sort of the scripting Bible, there's an instruction book. There's got to be an instruction manual on how to write scripts for Farm Sim 19, and Giants haven't written it yet, because they're technical guys who would be writing the how to write scripts for dummies for Farm Sim 19 are all fixing bugs. And obviously, while you're fixing bugs, you may be changing how the scripting interface works. So I can very well see, especially for CMT Software, who do these class tractors. I mean, I get in here. Let's get in the cab. Let's press the right shift button. I can open the door, and I can close the door. And the lights come on when I do that. The steering wheel pushes away. There's a window over there I can open. I've got an on-screen, and I can tab through 2 menus on that. That one doesn't seem to have anything. Nothing else down there. There's a back window. We can open that, or we can close it. And there's the sunroof, and we can open that as well. Now, I'm guessing that won't necessarily be available on the initial release of this tractor for Farm Sim 19, because the scripting Bible hasn't been written yet. So there could very well be, once that comes out, the modders will take a look at that and say, oh, that's how I can do interactive control in a tractor. I'll get on that with the tractors I've already released. So there could be a 1.2 or a 1.3 or a 2.0 release on this tractor in Farm Sim 19, which has all the interactive control added to it. Yeah, now I think that, because I remember that coming out, and this farm I'm running it, and I do like it. It's a very nice tractor. Doesn't work well with 6-meter equipment, because the turn radius of the chassis is too wide. But with 12-meter equipment, 9-meter equipment, it works very well. But that's beside the point. It's a good tractor, and if Farm Sim 17 was the first game it came out on, then the modder produced that model over the course of 12 months. But for Farm Sim 19, he's got a head start. He's already got the model created. He's just got to retexture it for, you know, the Farm Sim 19 texture model and everything else. Then he can release it. I think the only complaint I have about this particular mod is the magic green paint. You look at the wheels and the tyres on this. Actually, the lower panel here gets dirty. This bit up here pretty much doesn't get dirty. The top of the tractor never gets dirty. We go back to this one, and this one is carrying dirt far better. The inside, you've got footprints on the mat. I think this, because both of these tractors have been used fully. It doesn't carry dirt quite as much. Now let's go and have a look at the 1455, which is a base in-game tractor. And this thing has just been driving around the field wrapping, and it's filthy. I bet we take a look inside. So it doesn't, yeah, especially the 900 doesn't get as dirty as everything else does. And I can come off a field having worked all day, and this tractor is practically clean, and everything else looks like it's been dragged through the dirt backwards. But yeah, I think it'll be nice to see these tractors, but I don't know whether they'll be IC in them at initial release. What have we got here? Oh, the real dirt colour. Okay, yeah, I saw that came out the other day. I don't have that downloaded yet. I might actually do it. I've got an awful lot of... It gets to the point where, you know, I download so many mods that they get almost... they just get in the way of each other. I mean, we go here. I have very few mods loaded on this particular farm. Typically tractors. See, I've got the big bud pack. Haven't used any of those. I've got the Class Axion 800 and 900. The Zerion I added very late, probably about... I actually added during this playthrough. I've got the narrow-tracked MT 700, 800. And then I've got a couple of T6s. These are very nice mods, but the narrow tyres aren't crop cut tyres, so I had to turn crop destruction off on these because putting narrow tyres on just ripped up the ground. The 4-cylinder I think is effectively the base game version. You've got 121 horsepower up to 163. Then they gave you a 6-cylinder which starts at 154 and goes up to 175. The Tier 7, this is a short wheelbase, so you know, compare it to the heavy duty. Where's that? T7 heavy duty. This is a much longer nose on this tractor. They're pretty much functionally the same. It's just that this is a shorter tractor, and that's better for a small farm. But yeah, not so many tractors. Now, if you go and look at my full download list, I've probably got about 50 mod tractors. Well, it gets to the point where you get that many mods loaded into a game, and you just can't find what you're looking for. So, so for the first year I was downloading anything that looked good, and then for the last year I was deleting stuff I'd never used on any of my playthroughs. And I would, whenever I started a new playthrough, I went through the mod list and just checked off the mods I wanted. So of all the mods I've got loaded, I'm probably using less than 10% on this particular game save. I always use that truck on a European style farm because it's cheaper than the IT runner. This was a set that was initially created by GTX Mods, and you basically got these frames that stand on legs. You drive a truck or a trailer underneath it, you fold the legs up, and your truck can do whatever it's set to do. So diesel tank, water and milk trailer, what else? Multi-purpose tank, which you can do slurry and liquid fertilizer. Not that one. There is that one. There's a chaser bin, which I use two of these. One is for seed, one is for fertilizer. And then I have a tank, a general purpose tank, which I carry liquid fertilizer in, and a pair of tanks which I can use for slurry or digestate. And so truck and a trailer, they run, and pretty much if I'm out on, okay, it's time to seed every single field in my farm, I've got one of these trucks following with a seed and the fertilizer, so that I can keep everything stocked up. I don't have to drive back to the farm to refill the seeders. Yeah, as I said, the Zerion was a late add for me. This isn't even the biggest engine that you can get on the class. Where is it? I ended up buying two trucks. This one only has the 380 horsepower. I think it'll go up to 420, but 380 was sufficient, and I haven't needed anything bigger. I bought the Zerion because it was different. It does have 435 horsepower, but I haven't bought any bigger equipment for it. It's just to complement the 900, because I was getting to the point where I couldn't. This tractor would be running around ploughing all the fields, and once it's finished ploughing a field, I kind of wanted to get into seeding the field so that the work was all complete in the shortest possible time, and I didn't have another tractor big enough to do that. Now, on day 5 yesterday, or yesterday game day, I ended up renting a T8, leasing a T8 for the day, because this thing was hauling a chaser bin, unloading the harvester. This thing was ploughing all the fields, and I still wanted to seed the fields. And because, as we saw from the weather report, I've got 6 days of rain coming up, I wanted the seed in the ground before the rain started. So I needed another big tractor in order to do all the jobs on the farm. Now, 90% of the year, big tractors are sitting around doing not a lot, but every so often I have to get them all out. Obviously, for the mowing train, I need one big one. Normally this would have been serviced with maybe a 200, 250 horsepower, and the wrapper, I can run anything under 150. And I'd usually go with that, but since the Zerion and the class were already out and over by the sheep farm, it kind of made sense to use the tractors that were in place rather than go off and find something a bit smaller that would have been cheaper to run on it. Well, for the most, there were some bad mods out there, and for the most part I play them and delete them. But there were some mods out there, some really, really nice mods, but they didn't fit with what I was doing. I mean, it's like the Big Bud. The Big Bud is a really nice tractor, but completely useless for this farm. Completely useless for Oldstream Farm. So it was sort of fitting the mod in with what I was doing. Now, these AR frame trucks, 3-axle short wheelbase truck, ideal for Oldstream Farm, ideal for this farm. The roads around here are narrow. You can't get a cab and trailer easily around the streets around this particular map. And so this works with a short, a trailer that's the same size as that bed. It's a little bit more agile than a cab and a long, 20-foot trailer. So it's how stuff, it's how stuff fits in. Now for, what is it, Ravenport, having a cab and trailer, not a problem. There are a lot of this style of truck with tippers or flatbeds on them. But that means you have to buy a truck for every single job. And when I was starting out, I don't have the money to buy 5 different trucks. So being able to buy a truck and a little cheap flatbed attachment, tipper attachment, auger wagon attachment, gas tank attachment, the trucks are flexible for the job I have to do today. Just like a cab and trailer are. Cheap trailers, kind of expensive cab. But too big. So anyway, it is 12:30. So I am going to call it a day. I need to go and have something to eat. There needs to be a shopping trip for groceries sometime soon. As I said, plans are I may be back this afternoon for or later on this afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, for an extended look at Marwell Manor. And if I don't do that this afternoon, I may do that tomorrow afternoon. Typically, if I'm not taking a nap, I may be available from sort of 3 o'clock onwards, and I may think about streaming then. I would like to get a stream sometime this weekend for Marwell Manor as an extended first look. Monday night, we're back to World of Warships at 7 o'clock. So, have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy what you're doing, and if you're back later, I'll see you then. In the meantime, take care.